Hello everyone. As I mentioned last week, for this stream I was thinking of doing a little bit of work with just a little bit of lighting. Um, since I had a couple of people that were asking about um, one of these environments that I've set up. Hopefully this might be useful to some of you. This is hopefully what the end goal of this stream is going to be. So we'll do a little bit of this level design, bringing in some items into the level, just kind of simple stuff, nothing over the top. And then we'll go about trying to set this kind of lighting that I currently have here. Hopefully we'll get pretty close to this, and let's get to it. So let me save this, and we'll go into our let's see, lighting stream level, I believe, or is it this one, or I think it might be 2. Let's try 2. I can't remember which one we used last time. I believe it's this one. I see that there's some stuff that we already had from before, so we're gonna go ahead and use it since it's already here. So first of all, we had the lighting from before set up over here, and what we'd like to do is this is going to be at night, so let's set up our time of day to be sometime at night. Now the default template, or whenever you create a level, it usually comes with well, not the most proper values if you want to have a nighttime as well. So first thing to do is this sun intensity. Hey Oscar, welcome. Yeah, just doing a stream on lighting. So first of all, let's bring this down to about 10. So that will give us a little bit of kind of a darkening of the environment, and I think we'll be good with that for now. So one thing that is also in here, the intensity of the sky is usually due to, let me see if I can figure it out. I believe it might be due to the fog. So let's bring these densities down. I can't remember. I think I might be using a volumetric fog for this level. So let's see if we can bring some of these values down. If not, I might just import one of my because I can't remember exactly where this was being set. So let me try and add one of my existing time of day settings. Again, like I mentioned last time, this time of day setting is identical to what I posted in the last stream for the Cryengine documentation. So feel free to use that. I just used that one. So let's see, which one do we have that was actually pretty good. I'm just gonna sort by date. I think this one might be okay, I'm hoping, or maybe not. Let's see, add existing, maybe this one. There we go. So for this one, let's see, what do we have different that's kind of gives you this a little bit more of a lighting look right at night. So let's take a quick peek at this, just so that maybe we can figure what it was that was brightening up that thing so strongly. I'm not entirely sure. I think it might have been something related to the night sky multiplier. But yeah, there's so many values in here, I never get to know it by heart. So let's go ahead and set our interior for this. I mean, this part just being a little bit of level design. So let's add, hopefully I can access some of those things. Last time I don't think I was seeing a few of the items, so let's see if we can get that window maybe. Still nothing. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Let me quickly do a generate repair all metadata. I'm not sure if that's gonna help any, but hopefully it will. And let's see. And we're looking in props maybe. This is, I'm at that point where I have quite a few things in here that could also translate into not finding things. So let's see, where can we find this? Let me open my that zoo level that I have, and hopefully I can track where that this house window is. So let's go to properties for this. Well, as long as the engine does not crash. There we go. I don't know why. Sometimes it just, you know, jumping from level to level. So this is house window. Alright, well, anyways, I'm just going to use this level. I don't want to waste any more time with a different level that apparently I can't seem to find things in it. So let's just move to the side somewhere and start fresh. So first of all, I'm just going to use this this hallway. So maybe I have it here as well. So just like we did before, we have the interior walls and then the exterior walls as well with it. So let's go ahead and bring those in. So first of all, I'm using the grid. So house and interior walls maybe. Let's see. Hallway interior walls, and then we must have some exterior walls as well. So let's bring this in first. There it is. I'm just going to bring it up a little bit. And then just duplicate it. And change, just like we did before, change the geometry to, let's see, right here. And we'll do the exterior walls. Alright, so let's quickly apply some materials to this. And we have, maybe did I think it was on the walls. So let's see, can we find that? Interior walls. There's quite a few attempts that I was doing here. Let's see which one might work best. That doesn't look too good because it's some concrete. So let's see, maybe this one. Oh, that looks even worse. Huh. Let's see, what can we find? There's that. There's this one, that one. Let's sample out of the existing one and use that. So this one. So usually when you want to sample, just use this little key here. And sometimes this material really needs some fixing. This material window, because it usually does not work, because sometimes it doesn't work as intended. So Let's go ahead and open that up again. Material editor. There we go. So let's apply that to these, just like that. So we have some proper materials, and we'll apply it to the interior walls as well. There we go. That's looking a little better, even though it's still really dark. Okay, so we'll focus on this room here. Actually, first of all, let's drag in a door, so that way we have something here. And at this point, we can turn off um, the grid because we have the walls in place. So now there's just kind of minute placement. So there's that, and let's look for some windows. And just like before, I can't seem to find. Did I misspell how window is? House window 1. It should be here. So house window 1. Interesting. Why it doesn't show up as the model in the preview? So I guess even with our test level, we were able to find it, but just due to the little preview being a little honky, it wasn't showing up. All right, so let's place our window here real quick. My opening is a little bigger, so that's why I kind of have a generic window, so then we can just kind of fit it into the walls. One thing that I do want to add, or actually do, is update my geometry so we get some light in here, and we can see things a little better. And let's see, I think I've brought down some values. So let's bring this up, and the diffuse, we'll bring the bias down to what it should have been, but just for now we'll have it so that we get some lighting in here. Alright, so let's place the window over these openings, scale it up a little bit, and right there as well. Alright, the other thing that I had a couple of other things in here. So there was like a bed. I think we can kind of place that right there. Alright, and like a dresser or something, you know, like to put stuff in. Well, actually, that's one of them. And the other one, maybe I called it cabinet. There it is. Put that in there. And like a TV stand that I had here. Along with a TV right there. Alright, I also had some carpets thrown around. So let's pick up maybe one of these round carpets. I think I might have used kind of an awkward texture for that. So, and it's probably due to the lighting in here that it's not yet loading that properly. Alright, so we got some carpets there. Maybe add another one somewhere around here. Scale that down. Just like that. I did have a couple of trash bags in here just to give a little bit more, you know, kind of interesting reflections in the room. So, trash bag. Let's see, where was it? There's it's a trash bin. So there's one here. We can kind of put that around that area. Another one kind of around here. Let's do another one right there. Let's see. I also had some, trash little pieces, and I believe those were just kind of stuff like, bottles and. Um, it's always nice to have some kind of reflective surfaces. That kind of, to me at least, it catches the eye. So, and it's always good whenever you build your assets and level to have proxies, because as you can see, it's so much easier to place things, like on top of the TV, or on top of this TV stand here. So it definitely helps, like say this cup, or something like that. Place it right there. And I think I also have a collision for the bed. So yeah, there you go. We have the bed on there, so you can directly place things on here. Kind of right there. Maybe a couple of bottles. Let's see. I thought I had some beer bottles to place around here and there. And I also had like a skateboard, so that's always, kind of adding a little bit of things to your scene, just like that. Again, simple stuff. Then the drapes, just to kind of cover the window a little bit. Try and place those like that. And just kind of place them around the trash bags. Kind of like that. I think that will do. And we'll do another one of these over on this side. There we go. So that's starting to look like like a scene, like there's something going on. Maybe throw a couple of I like to do some clothes. Let's see. Do I have? I think I named them shirts or something. So something like that to kind of put on the bed. I think it's more fitting if it was hanging up, actually. So maybe I'll just do without for now. Okay. So with that said, let's do the outside, because in that scene that I had some like neon lights that were hanging on the building right outside, the one that we were currently in. So let me make sure that this one is extending all the way out. I think that will do. Alright, so let's bring that that facade that I have. I think it was called facade. Let's see. What did I name it? Actually, I'm just going to use one of these groups here, because it's made out of, so if you look at when we were looking for windows, it's actually made of a bunch of these sections, which not necessarily good practice, but for prototyping purposes, for me this was plenty. So I'm just going to delete that and bring one of those groups that I already have here. So let's place these kind of right across the street, sort of thing. just like that. Maybe you can, bring it a little closer if it's one of those like narrow alleys or something. Okay. So there's that. We can see the windows across the street, and let's bring in those neon lights. The geometry for that. Let's see. So there's one, and there's another one. So the way to set up these neon lights, I got these off of Blend Swap. It was a pretty good resource. I mean, the thing is, I had to kind of give it up, or not give it up, but I had to do a bunch of work to actually make it work a little better. So, but in the end, you get some pretty decent looking neon lights, and actually to set these up as far as the material, it's it's very easy. Well, first of all, I wanted to separate them. It was initially just one object, so I wanted to split them up because you can always, you don't necessarily have to split them up. You can set up two materials, but in my case, I wanted to have two separate objects. So one of them, they both have absolutely nothing in the diffuse bump map or specular, but they do have an emissive value to them. So this one has blue, the other one has red. So let's take a quick peek at that as well. So this one has red. Of course, it also depends on how bright you want the neon to be. I've set mine to 500. You can probably go higher than that. All right. So let's go ahead and make this be a nighttime scene. So let's position this a little better. I'm gonna quickly hit F to freeze this selection so I don't get to keep selecting the building. So there's that. There's the two neon signs. Then I'm just gonna try and position a little better. Okay. So, and I'm thinking you can always probably we can bring these a little closer. So Shift F to unfreeze my group here and select these up. I kind of like them if they were a little closer, just because you get to see a little better. You can always make the neon sign bigger if you'd like. All right, so let's see how it looks from the inside. Try and kind of position this a little bit. All right, there. I think that's a good placement for things. So let's actually work on some of the lighting. So kind of a little bit of the fun stuff. So I'm just going to bring my level settings in here, and let's take a look. We brought these values up pretty high, so let's tone them down to where they would be. All right, so now that we have that in place, let's and you can also take a look at what I have for my settings. It's entirely up to you. What do you want to tweak these? To me, these seem to make the most sense if you have a full 24-hour cycle. It seemed to make sense for me. And also with these values, if you turn on mode 1, actually let me just save this real quick just in case there's any crashes. So if you turn on mode 1, and let's do an update geometry, it also works pretty good, but the thing to note is that I had to turn down the diffuse multiplier to about a 0.1 because there was a little bit too much light that was coming into rooms and stuff. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to keep it in mode 0, and this is going to be at 1, and I'm just going to play with the diffuse bias because the diffuse bias influences this quite a bit, so I usually keep it at a pretty low value, just like that. Okay, so right now let's add an environment probe. So let's go to create object, and we want to go to components and environment probe. So I'm just going to drag this in here. There's that. So now I'm going to bring the properties in here as well, so you guys can see what I have. Again, what I mentioned last time is that I like to use the default probes that come with the game SDK package, but you can always just hit generate for this. So let's go ahead and for this one we'll generate the probe, because I'm thinking if they plan on getting those dynamic probes in for the next engine releases, we might actually have some we might actually be able to just generate the probes and get some more accurate reflections. All right, so as you can see, we're already starting to get to our lighting. But let's go to nighttime. So I'll bring this down all the way to 0 here. So I'm going to keep it there for now. Okay. One thing to note about the environment probe is sometimes I like to turn down the specular multiplier, because it's tough to hey Oscar, so Oscar is asking how to manage the light coming from the window. Is there any change if the window is open or closed? Well, for this stream, I'm not going to account for that, because that would mean if you open or close the window, say for example, or the drapes, right? So there's no light coming in. With the integration mode, say for example you're during the day. With the integration mode, that's actually going to start blocking the light, so which is actually pretty convenient. So I can show you that real quick. Let's because that was actually a good question. So for example, during the day, you have this kind of light coming in, and but what if you want to say, for example, let me make sure that I have all the geometry voxelized. Okay, so that's all voxelized and good. So with integration mode 0, this is one of the reasons that I also like it, is that let's make quickly a designer object. So that designer object, I'm probably gonna just use it for kind of to block the light, right? So let's create an object and go to designer and a designer box. And I'm just gonna edit this one. So let's go to properties, edit, and in here we get polygon, and let's make this so that it covers that window. I think that's a little bit too big actually. Let's make it a little smaller. So this is going to act as our drapes. For example, you have the drapes that would close or something like that. So let's see, we have this like that. One thing that I might do, let's take a look at this, and let's see, I think because I also have an environment probe for the entire level that we talked about last time. So let's see, leave that at 1. But let's take a look how this is going to influence our interior lighting, if you will. So let's see if we cover that. If we can do. Hopefully, we can do something about this light coming in. And I'm not sure if you're noticing, but the room is darkening up a little bit, especially around these areas. And part of that you can also control with this sky color multiplier, as far as I remember. So if this one, say, was 0.1, and we move this out of the way, our fake drapes, you'll notice that if you look around here and down here, you'll notice that there's a bunch of the light has been has been, removed, or there's not as much light coming in. So again, think of this box as our drapes, or as our, window blocking, whatever you want to have. So hopefully that makes sense. And Oscar, hopefully that makes sense. I mean, this is how I view it for this to perform. So okay, so but that's during the day. Of course, when there's nighttime, you can't really do that as much. So let's move back to our nighttime. So here, one thing that yeah, no problem, Oscar. So as I was mentioning earlier, um, you see that a bunch of these surfaces have a little bit too much reflection. I mean, I'm also not an expert at in PBR and such. So I'm assuming that the value for this probe, when you first set it up, it's probably good to leave it at 0. So that way, you might just want to tweak some of the material values. But so for example, if I have this trash bag and I go to its material, maybe I want to tone this down a little bit, right? So it's not like that, you don't want that. So, but again, this is as much as an artist type job as well. So we might want to do this TV stand as well. So let's tone that down a little bit as well. So we got these two, and again, this wood is probably not anywhere near what PBR should be like, because I've played quite a bit with the values, but again, a lot of them are for placeholder uh, type things. Okay, so with that said, we have actually some light coming in because of our moon, right? So our nighttime lighting. But let's actually get some of the lights from these neons. So first of all, let's we have a kind of a red glow and this blue glow. So as you can see, at least the way I'm looking at this, um, there's a lot more red in here. So the main kind of the way I've set this up is with two projector lights. One is going to be for the red, and one is going to be for the blue, and one point light for the red, because that one is actually the one that, as you can look at this, kind of outputs a little bit more glow. So let's go ahead and create our lights. So if we go to components and we have point lights. So the point light, the first point light is going to be our red. So for this one, actually, and also just because for performance reason and all, I did not set any of these lights to cast shadows. So let's go ahead and go into the properties for this one, and I might just move this closer to where I'm creating the objects, because it's a little bit too, and I'm guessing that this one is kind of, it only allows me to move it over by 1. So we have the properties, and let's tone this down, and I've actually given this a pretty low value of 0.005, so it's only slightly kind of covering, casting light on these interior walls. Alright, so let's also make this so that it's reddish in color, and this is entirely up to you how much red you want to put in here. Okay, so we're already seeing that we get some nice reflections from this red and such. So that's that's nice. And also you can still see that there's this blue glow that's a little bit strong, and just along, because like we can see it somewhere. I think I was able to see it somewhere around here, like on the floor. So you can always, especially for that, you can always cover it with less reflective surfaces. For example, I'm using this carpet, right? So that's good to have something like that. All right, so we have this thing that casts our red light. So actually, I'm gonna probably tone it down a little bit more because I think it might be a little bit too strong still. Okay, so I think that might be a little better. Okay, so the other two lights that I wanted to add are those two projector lights. So create object, and we have a projector light. One thing to note with the projector lights, a very important thing with it is its angle and the texture that it's using. So for example, I have, as you can see, I have a opening here which is this window, but the way it's currently projecting, it's projecting in a circle, right? So if you go to the properties of the projector light, you can choose a projected texture. So if we go through the asset browser, this is also just some of the assets from Game SDK. So if we go to textures and we have lights, and I believe it's under generic. So in here we have all these options for how the projection is going to be. So the one that I went for is, I'm probably going to use this rectangle half 0.75, just like that. So as you can see, we get a nice rectangle projection here. Alright, so let's tweak some of these values, get this attenuation bulb size. This one actually, if you look at it, if you set it to 1, you'll notice that it's a lot stronger, and you'll get these harsher looking kind of noise around the edge, probably mostly due to the texture, I would assume. Okay, so let's bring this down to maybe 0.01, so hopefully it gives it a little softer. And the other thing that's going to probably help with it is toning the value down, because right now it's way too bright. So I've set this up at around 0.02, just like so. So now you see that we get this this interesting, kind of this nice light coming through on the ceiling and on the floor, but it's it's not really red. So let's tone this down to kind of a reddish color. Let's see, maybe not so, maybe a little bit more desaturated, kind of around there. And I think there's some issues right now with the selector, so hopefully when 5.5 comes out, some of those will be sorted out. And I think we can actually bring this down to maybe a 0.01. Okay, that's a little better. So there's that. So we have some of the red um, um, light coming in, but we also want to get some of that blue to shine on some of these bags and maybe on the TV, because we have a blue um, neon light here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the same light. I'm going to duplicate this and move it up a little bit. And for this one, let's change it to something blue. And I think that might do. So let's see how these things look here. And for this one, I've actually set the value a little lower, just so that it doesn't conflict. And I've actually pointed it a little bit different. So this one is going to be, I think let's bring it down to a 0.005 maybe. So let's work a little bit on positioning this, so we get some of it, like for example, maybe we get a little bit on the windowsill, maybe some of it on the bed. And you can always one thing that I like to do is play with these angles a little bit. So we, since it's not as powerful as the red light, we can still get some of it in there. So with that said, just like that, and let's see if we can tweak it so we get a little bit of it shining on the TV as well. And there we go. It's always nice to have these. Um, with the new version, you can get these positioning items to be, currently you have it, you can set it up to be in the camera view or local, parent. So local is pretty good because whenever you rotate it, maybe you want to, move it away once you rotated it, like I'm doing here, right? I want to move it away from it on that same axis or not. So and there's that, and I think maybe we can, maybe bring this angle down some more. Okay, yeah, that's actually starting to look pretty decent. Let me tone down the values for um, those drapes there. And so, like I said, the one thing that I don't have in here at the moment is none of these lights cast shadows, and performance-wise, that's kind of fine with me. But you can, because one of the things that I wanted to do is actually use one of these projector lights for shadows, but unfortunately there's a bug currently, and it is fixed in 5.5 where um, these projector lights, whenever they cast shadow and SVO GI is on, or total illumination is on, the engine crashes. So I think this is all solved in 5.5. So with that said, I think that might be it. Because like I said, I'd like to have projector lights casting a shadow, but as you know, shadows impact performance, so you want to be mindful about that. Also, one of the things that um, depending on the current integration mode you're on, sometimes I want to turn down this sky color multiplier to a lower value, um, maybe 0.02. So with that said, that is pretty much everything that I wanted to show you guys today. So yeah, as far as the shadows goes, um, this is you can always I'm gonna quickly show you. You can always have your point light cast the shadows, through the window. So that way, let's take a look at this real quick. Because I mean, it's I do like shadows, but again, you got to be mindful. Real-time engines, they will take a toll on performance. So we have our point light. So if we turn on low, one thing that you'll notice, right off the bat, is that we don't have the light on this wall anymore. So what I like to do is actually duplicate this light and have it not cast shadows. So that way we get this this light shadow on the side walls here. Um, But we don't really see any shadows, right? Because I mean, there's no shadow coming from the bed, or I mean, you can see it a little bit, but it's probably not as strong as maybe you'd like to have it. So let's position some of this stuff back on the bed. So one thing that you can do, let's take a look at our lights and see which one casts the shadows. So that one is just for our side walls. So this one is the one that casts our shadows, right? Yeah, there we go. We have minimum shadow graphics set to low. So let's see if we can make this, show our shadows a little better. First of all, let's see how our shadows are being cast by this, and it looks pretty good. Let's kind of try and center it to the window a little more. So one thing to check first is where your light is, and since it's outside, we want to. That's kind of what we wanted to do. But right now, this value is a little too high, so I'm just going to bring it down to a 0.02. Let's see, this bed is. So right now you can see that we get some shadows from the window. The reason that like I said before, I'm not necessarily a big fan of having the shadows in these situations, is that you'll notice there's some light leakage around here and around here. Probably, a lot of it is due to the radius of the light, how close it is to the surface. And so what I want to do is, since this one is here, let's move it further back. So that might be a little better. We get some of the shadows in here, because if I was to turn this off, you don't really notice it as much. But as you can tell, the toll that it takes on performance, you get almost 5 to 6, maybe even 7 frames per second out of that, and this is not even in 1080p. It definitely adds a little bit more to the scene, just because you get this little nice glow around the surfaces, like this cloth that I have here. So again, it depends a lot on how you want to set up these things. One thing to note is, as far as fixing these this light leakage around here, what I did for that screenshot that I had earlier is actually use some of these designer objects. So these are really useful because you can really easily create them, and you can really easy help. They can help with issues like that light leakage, and you can always have these hidden via flow graph, and once for example you go inside the building, through a trigger, you can have those shown again. So as you can see, they help quite a bit with that light leak. So I was just positioning them around here. So there we go. The light leak is gone, and we get a little bit of shadows going on. We have this, nice, glow around the curtain. So one other thing that I wanted to mention is for these lights, you might, depending on your setup, say for example you want to use and do these shadows, and again like I said, it takes its toll on performance. Probably I'm getting probably a few frame drop just because of the open broadcast software. But one of the things that that I like to do is, like I said, depending on your setup, I might want to tweak some of the specular values for some of these lights. So for example, the one that's we have these 2-point lights, one that's casting shadows and the other one that is not casting shadows. So probably for one of these, I want to turn the specular down. So if you look at it, this is what you'd be getting, if you turn this value down. So maybe leave it around a point two. So these were kind of floating up in the air. Um, so yeah, one thing to be also mindful about is the because you have quite a few lights in here, and um, some of them not casting shadows, so that might be affecting um, your reflections inside the room. So at this point, I think that is actually pretty decent. Um, and like I said, hopefully once that issue is fixed with the projector lights not casting shadows, or not crashing the engine when casting shadows, you might be able to use those and instead of the point lights to cast shadows. But like I said, the shadow casting does not really add too much. I mean, it definitely helps. You can see like the shadows coming in around here for the window opening. Kind of around here as well. So it definitely helps. I mean, in the overall scene. But again, just be mindful of how many of these shadow lights you have, and turn them on and off whenever you're not in the building, or so hopefully that should help with performance. So with that said, thank you guys so much for checking the stream out, and hopefully next week we'll go and do a little bit more of the programming. What I've been working on is a destroyable object, an object that starts off as say for example a barrel, and you shoot at it. Thank you, Oscar, for stopping by. You have a nice Sunday as well. So like I said, the destroyable object would be something that, in my example, it would be a barrel that is intact, that it's not broken, and you shoot at it, it takes damage. We'll display, we'll set up a set life for it, and after it takes some damage, it turns into a destroyed barrel, maybe a broken part or something like that, and maybe also add a particle effect to it, maybe like some smoke or something. So hopefully I'll have that ready for next week's stream. Until then, you guys have a great week coming up. Thanks again for stopping by. Bye.